Good evening, I'm Keisha Butts with a CTV News update. Prince George's County will remain in COVID recovery phase 2. County Executive Angela Alsobrooks made the announcement this morning saying COVID-19 is still causing harm in our communities. Meantime, Alsobrooks is reminding residents that nursing home visits are prohibited and that child care center limits remain in place. Dr. George Askew says we haven't seen a consistent drop in new cases to open to phase 3.
The county's daily case rate is also trending back up a bit. It's now at 11.5 cases per 100,000 population per day for last week, and that's still too high for us.
Including the fact that we see the fluctuating positivity rate, that we're concerned about the infection rate, and the new case number per day means that we are remaining in phase 2 of reopening.
There's some good news. Youth sports are reopening and some basketball hoops are being put back up. Meanwhile, with Halloween approaching, traditional door-to-door trick-or-treating is discouraged. Alsobrooks is instead encouraging residents to participate in scavenger hunts and drive-through trick-or-treating. The COVID-19 case count in Maryland is now approaching 130,000. That's according to the state health department. 761 new cases were reported today, along with 6 deaths. Separated by 12 feet and plexiglass shields, Vice President Mike Pence and Democrat Kamala Harris debated in their only scheduled matchup. The Trump administration's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic dominated the discussion, with Harris calling it the greatest failure of any presidential administration. Pence, who leads Trump's coronavirus task force, defended the administration's overall response to a pandemic that has killed at least 210,000 Americans. And while they traded barbs, this meeting was much more civil than last week's dust-up between Trump and Biden. Here is some of what Pence and Harris said last night in Salt Lake City.
Vice President Pence, you were in the front row in a Rose Garden event 11 days ago at what seems to have been a super spreader event for senior administration and congressional officials. No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8 months that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first. And President Trump and I have great confidence in the American people and their ability to take that information and put it into practice.
Let's talk about respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage to be a leader speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker knowing you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line because of the ineptitude of an administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American people. So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because of the incompetence of this administration.
The candidates also touched on police killings and systemic racism. The second debate between President Trump and Joe Biden is apparently off. The candidates were slated to face off virtually next Thursday. But this morning, Trump said he would not participate in a debate virtually. The president says the change in the format is not acceptable. He says, quote, "I'm not going to waste my time at a virtual debate." The Trump administration asked the U.S. Supreme Court for permission to end the census count. The emergency request seeks to halt the count after a federal court ordered the Census Bureau to continue until the end of October. The Trump administration initially backtracked the October deadline to the end of September and then extended it to October 5th. Despite a court order mandating it to go until the end of October, critics say the move risks undercounting minority populations. The founder of the newly organized progressive advocacy group Strong Future Maryland says crisis can be a catalyst for change. With the pandemic and other critical issues facing our nation, including economic and health inequities, police reform, and education, John King launched his group to create what he calls a New Deal moment. The former Obama administration education secretary says our state needs a robust response to the pandemic that in the end builds something better than was in place before the pandemic.
Our hope is to work in partnership with other progressive organizations that are focused on these issues of the safety net and climate change. We really want to accelerate that work. We've got a great coalition of folks involved in the early stages, including some of my colleagues from the Obama administration, Alice Kane, who was a delegate from Annapolis, Fagan Harris, who runs something called Baltimore Corps, which mobilizes folks to build the nonprofit sector in Baltimore. So we've got, I think, the right early coalition. We've got a network of supporters so that we've got resources. And what we really want to do is create the public messaging necessary to move these issues forward that have been stuck.
King also says he will work to overturn Hogan's veto of the Kerwin Commission education spending plan that was passed by the legislature. Authorities are investigating an early morning shooting in the district involving county officers and a carjacking suspect. County officials pursued the suspect into D.C., where the vehicle crashed near 36th Place in Southeast. The suspect then reportedly shot at officers who returned fire. No injuries were reported, and the suspect was taken into custody. Anyone with information on this incident is asked to contact police. County police are asking for the public's help in locating a man involved in several armed robberies. Police say this man is linked to 3 incidents at 2 drug stores and a grocery store. They took place in Capitol Heights, Temple Hills, and Oxon Hill. The most recent robbery occurred on Tuesday. Anyone with information on the suspect is asked to contact Crime Solvers at 1-866-411-TIPS. As coronavirus numbers rise in the U.S., a nonprofit is tackling an urgent need. Secure the Call is collecting and distributing smartphones for hospitalized COVID-19 patients. Its goal is to put those patients back in touch with their family and friends.
People were coming into the ER expressing symptoms, getting tested positive for COVID, being put into quarantine, and a lot of times patients showed up without their phone, in panic. Most people don't show up with chargers to the hospitals. And once you get tested positive and put into quarantine, you are cut off from the outside world. So a lot of patients were unable to communicate with their loved ones. And then it was on the nurses and the doctors to lend their phones to these patients so that they could make phone calls. And this nurse wanted to know if we could assist them by providing some of our devices. Fortunately, our smartphones that we now get in are all Wi-Fi enabled. So if you have access to Wi-Fi, all hospitals have good Wi-Fi, you can make video calls. So we thought that we had a beautiful opportunity to help this pandemic a little bit with the service that we offer. Privacy is a paramount concern for us, so every phone is hand wiped. We clear them out, and then and what I've been doing is I personally go through them and make sure that they're cleared out, make sure there's no personal information on there, and then install a couple of the most popular web calling devices so that they're ready to go when they go to the hospital.
The donated phones are loaded with FaceTime, Zoom, Skype, and other communication apps. For more information on the organization or to donate a phone, log on to securethecall.org. Governor Larry Hogan is asking all Marylanders to do their part to slow the spread of COVID-19. He says, quote, "Wearing a mask is the best way to keep ourselves and our families safe." He says you can also help by taking part in the Mask on Maryland Challenge. He's asking you to use social media and post pictures of yourself wearing a mask. And when you post the pictures, use the hashtag #MaskOnMaryland. Officials say practicing good hygiene and wearing masks in public is an effective way to slow the spread of COVID-19. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency has seized counterfeit and unapproved goods and medications at several mid-Atlantic ports, including Baltimore. The seizures include COVID-related medications and more than 100 COVID-19 testing kits and antibody tests. 58,000 face masks that violated trademark protections were also seized. The enforcement actions took place in Baltimore, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Wilmington. The nation's second largest movie chain is shutting down its doors for operations for the second time this year. REGAL movie chain is closing down all 536 U.S. movie theaters today, including 3 in Prince George's County. Company officials say the closures are due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The move comes less than 2 months after the chain started reopening in August. Some 40,000 workers nationwide will be furloughed. The company calls the foreclosures temporary, but did not provide a date for possible resumption of business. Another local business folds during the pandemic, this one in Greenbelt. The Holiday Inn, located in the 9200 block of Hanover Drive, is slated for a foreclosure auction. Biz Journals reports that the property owner fell behind on a $10 million loan it took out in 2012 to refinance the property. The public auction takes place tomorrow at 11 a.m. on the county courthouse steps in Upper Marlboro. If you live in the city of Bowie, listen up. The city is hosting a series of free food distributions this month through November. The first giveaway is on the 17th at Rockledge Elementary School starting at 11 a.m. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner will be distributed to at least 100 families. You must be a City of Bowie resident to participate.
We're trying to be able to assist as many people as possible. As I said, we'll give the bags out based on the household size. So if there are 2 folks in a household, we'll give 1 bag. If there are 3 folks, we'll give 2 bags. And each bag has a breakfast, lunch, and dinner option. So the idea is to just give people a little bit of extra assistance with their monthly groceries.
For a complete list of food distributions, visit cityofbowie.org/COBcares. Here's your weather forecast. Tonight, clear with lows in the upper 40s. Friday, sunny with highs around 71 degrees. Saturday, mostly cloudy with possible showers, highs in the mid-70s. Sunday, showers likely with highs again in the 70s. And now your community calendar. As the virtual learning continues, the Prince George's school system is reminding parents that wireless internet access is available. If your family qualifies for free or reduced price meals, the school district will pay for the Comcast Essential service. Meantime, if you're not eligible for the meals program, you can still receive a Verizon wireless hotspot so you can access the internet at home. For more information, call the Distance Learning Hotline at 240-696-6229. And that wraps up our CTV News update. I'm Keisha Butts. Have a good night.
For the latest information on COVID-19 in Maryland, visit the State Health Department website. That's health.maryland.gov. Again, health.maryland.gov. Click the link to the COVID-19 information portal. There you'll find all the latest information about coronavirus. You'll find daily updates on cases and fatalities. Answers to questions about testing and the governor's stay-at-home order are available as well. For specific information about Prince George's, visit princegeorgescountymd.gov. That's princegeorgescountymd.gov. The site offers information about local services for residents and businesses. There's a link for COVID-19 relief donations. Also, food pantry locations are listed. And if you have any questions, call the county COVID-19 hotline at 301-883-6627. That's 301-883-6627.
There was a time in my life where I was extremely homesick. I decided that I needed a pet. When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. He jumped up and kissed me and jumped right into my arms. I immediately went up to the volunteers at the shelter and said, I want him. He's got to come home with me. Now I'm anything but lonely. Every day with Turtle is a perfect day and keeps me company when I'm doing schoolwork. I like it when he jumps up on the table too. He is a veggie thief. He's an incredible companion and my best friend. Can't say that I've met anybody that doesn't love him too. When I adopted Turtle, I discovered all the things that make him unique. He's a little bit of a lot of things, but mostly he's all pure love.